Thank you all for being here today. It's my privilege to stand in front of you. Welcome to all the veterans we have in the audience. I'm very pleased to be here. So I was asked to talk today about what I learned in my 39 years in the Navy and how did it apply when I got out of the Navy. So I was kind of mulling over that, and I was trying to figure out what could I do? How can I explain what I learned in 39 years? Well, I decided today to talk about my awards. But not the awards that you wear. It's the awards that all the veterans earn while they're in service, men and women. In fact, many of you will probably recognize some of these awards yourself. These are the awards that really mean something different, that make you different. And when you go into the civilian world, these are the kind of awards that you won, that people want to have you working for them. So my first award was in 1962. I decided to enlist in the Navy, become an electronics technician. So I'm off to a great start. And the second day I'm in boot camp, the Chief Petty Officer says, hey, Smith, he said, I'm going to make you the Master at Arms of the company. Now, we had 75 recruits in the company. So he said, you know what a Master at Arms is? I said, no, sir, I don't know what that is. He said, well, you're going to take care of our barracks. You have 74 shipmates here. They're all recruits, and you're in charge of them. But you're responsible for it. So every day you're going to get inspected by somebody else. And this barracks better be clean. That was the second day. I was 18 years old. And I'm already leading somebody. And we got through all that. But the point is that we expect young men and women today who are going places in Afghanistan where they are leading people. They're not taking care of a barracks like I did, but they're taking. But I learned about that. That was my first award I ever won, how important leadership is in a military society. It's expected of all of us, regardless of your rank and regardless of what your specialty is. A year later, through a long story, I wound up getting an appointment to Annapolis. So I was pretty excited about that, obviously. And the second day I was there, we sat down and we were told all about the honor concept. I never really had a lot of that when I was growing up. And it was all about integrity and truthfulness and honor and how important it was. And you better be following it. And that one day changed my life because I understood then that no matter what else you do, your honor is the most important thing that you have, and you can never lose it. 1967, now I'm out of Annapolis, and I'm an ensign in the Navy. Doing great. I'm on a ship waiting to go to SEAL training. I was on the destroyer for 2 years. And it was pretty exciting. I ran the deck division. These are the guys that bosun's mates to keep the ship clean and paint it, keep the rust off it. That was a great job. So on this ship, we had a little boat called the motor whale boat. And we lost the anchor. It's a 75-pound anchor, so we had to requisition a new one through the Navy system. So I had a petty officer. That's what his job was, requisitioning paintbrushes and paint, but not Ensign Smith. He needed to get involved more. I've been out of Annapolis now for 3 months, kind of feeling my oats. So I said, I'll take care of that, petty officer. So I go down to the supply office, get into the big book, open it up, find the section on anchors, found it, filled out the chit. Pretty easy job, no problem. So 2 weeks later, I'm coming down the pier. And one of my men is on the pier waiting for me. And I said, how you doing? He said, well, fine, sir. I said, I wanted you to know that the anchor's here. And I said, well, that's great. He said, well, we got a problem, sir. And I said, what's that? He said, well, look over there. Well, what had happened was I had requisitioned the wrong anchor. And there next to our ship was a 7,500-pound aircraft carrier anchor. You only do that once, by the way, I assure you. So anyway, then I knew this is when I learned about moral courage. I said, is the captain here yet? He said, no, sir, he's not. So I better stay here and tell him myself. So he comes down the pier, and I said, sir, I got to tell you, I requisitioned the wrong anchor. He said, what do you mean? So I pointed to it, and he turned away. It was the longest 30 seconds of my life. I thought, this is it. 3 months as a commissioned officer, and I'm going home. So he turns around and says, you know what? He said, Mr. Smith, if you were a lieutenant, I'd really be upset. But engines do this kind of stuff. Just put it back in the system. But what did I learn about doing my job? I was doing the job of someone who was qualified to do it, who worked for me. And I never again did any of my men's or women's jobs. I let them do their jobs. I never forgot that. So anyway, in 1969, now I'm in SEAL training. Things are getting great. One of the things we do is swim a lot in SEAL training, and an awful lot of time. And it's actually pretty good because the instructors can't get at you when you're out in the ocean. So everybody swims with a partner. We call them swim buddies. That's what we do, and they're very important. They're very visceral in our society. Swim buddies are very important. So I was the class leader because I had been on a ship. So I was a lieutenant junior grade. So I'm the class leader. So my swim buddy was a kid from Michigan, 19 years old, who had never been in the ocean before. So anyway, one day we had a 1.5 mile swim. And it was a bad day, one of these days where we had heavy surf and a lot of wind waves, and everybody was throwing up. And so we got to the mile point, and I told my buddy, Jimmy Lampman, I said, you know, Jimmy, I said, I'm dying, man. I'm drinking all the salt water, and I said, I'm not sure I'm going to make it. It was the only time in 25 weeks where I ever thought about that, but it was one of those days. We have those, don't we? And so he said, Lieutenant J.G., why don't you just roll over on your back and kick your fins? We have these big fins we swim with, and I'll talk you back. And he was a great kid. He was a lousy athlete, but he was a great kid. But he got through training, and so he said, I'll talk you back. And he loved to talk. So that day, a 19-year-old seaman apprentice helped out the class leader. Now, how important is that? Well, for me, it meant that the whole thing about being in the military is being on a team, because everybody has a tough day. That was my tough day. 2 weeks later, I helped him out. But that's when I learned about swim buddies and how important they are in your life, both professional life and your personal life. 1975, went to Vietnam, come back, and there's not much for us to do in the SEALs at the time, so they sent us off to graduate school, all the officers. So I got back down to a new job. I was a test and evaluation officer for all the new SEAL gear that was coming in. It's a big job. I was a lieutenant. Worked right for an admiral. I had 10 very senior NCOs. So we were doing all this great work. The admiral was happy. And came time for vacations. So my senior chief said, now, Lieutenant, you are going to take a vacation, aren't you? And I said, well, I don't know. I said, we got a lot going on here, Senior Chief. I'm just not sure about this. He said, no, you got to take some vacation. You got 3 little boys, your wife. I said, well, I don't know. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll take it if you call me every night. The senior chief's not happy about this, so he says, no, I'm not going to call you every night. I'll call you if something's wrong. Well, so I said, well, I guess I'll do that. So I went off for 11 days, knowing full well something was going to be wrong when I got back, because I had a big job. It was a big job. So we get back, and I'm driving over to the base in Coronado and getting ready for a tough day on Monday because I wasn't there for 11 days. So I get there, and all my men are over there, and it turned out that everything was fine. There wasn't anything wrong. All right? Well, what did I learn? I learned that no one's indispensable, award. Okay? Here's a lieutenant thinking he's indispensable because he has his job. I mean, that's where I learned that no one is indispensable. If you think that way, you need to get that out of your mind right away. So that was another award that I won that I carried with me the rest of my life.